Hey, I'm Daniel Berger, and this is Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. Welcome to the podcast where Metro New York real estate meets great stories and a douse of humor. Forget the dry sales talk. Here we dive into the fun and unexpected moments of real estate. Join me each week as we explore Westchester, Long Island, the Bronx, and more. You'll hear about the people, the places, and the crazy situations that make this industry so interesting. Thanks to our sponsor, Remax Prestige Properties, we're ready to share the lighter side of real estate. Whether you're a pro, a buyer, or just curious, we've got something for everyone. Ready for today's adventure? Let's get into it. Welcome to another episode of the Adventures of a Real Estate Broker with Daniel Berger. We have a very special guest who's going to enlighten us about a lot of different things about real estate investing and also how to deal with life. Jesse Trujillo, who has 20 plus years of investing, being a motivational speaker. He's currently the CEO of AJX Capital and AJX Homes. He talks and writes and speaks about passive income, creating legacy wealth. He personifies resilience and self-belief. Besides building his own wealth, he also gives back and teaches people how to build wealth themselves. He's done over 1,000 flips and currently manages a rental portfolio of over 1,000 doors. Average returns in his portfolio is between 7 and 18%. That's impressive enough, but there's a little bit more to the story. But with that, I wanted to thank Jesse for coming on the podcast this week.
Thank you, Daniel. Thanks for inviting me and having me on. Appreciate it.
So did I intro you? Is that you
Yeah,
feel like that's
100%. Yep.
so so that's really more on the business side. So Jesse and I were talking a little bit about some of the things we want to discuss, and I let him know that it's I call the podcast The Adventures of a Real Estate Broker because crazy things happen on the way to the closing table. Sometimes you don't get to the closing table. And we were just talking about some of the things that we were going over, and Jesse's like, I have a little bit of a backstory to everything. So I guess the first I want to just touch base on the business end of it, and then we'll get into the other stuff. But so what's interesting is, everyone says passive income, so explain to me, what that is and how you help people and what types of passive income things you have.
Yeah. So, the big difference, active and passive income, right? So for us, active is the flipping part, right? And like I said, for realtors, it's, actually being in the real estate world, right? Of representing people, either buying or selling. So that's active income. For me, the passive side is creating something that's making money on your money, right? Or it's making money while you sleep. So for us, I kind of really shifted with our flips. We'd make money actively and go passively and start buying some rentals, right? Go buying some apartment buildings, investing in other people's multifamily deals with big operators. And that has made a big change in my life and for my kids, just showing them of how important it is. Because my kids might follow my lead. I don't know if I mentioned this, but they're flipping with me, and actually they just completed a show called Kids Who Flip for the Warner Brothers. It'll be coming out this year, and they're following my lead in that. But they know the importance of using their active money, whether it's a W-2 job, whatever it is, and investing passively. So it's, a lot of people like stocks and things like that, but for me, real estate is something that really hits home for me because someone always needs a place to live. That's never going to go away. And to investing in the correct rentals that you can invest passively, well, that's going to allow you to be able to work and do whatever you love to do and having a paycheck come in, whether that's, monthly, quarterly.
So my view though on my passive income is, so yes, you can invest in many things, right? Crypto, gold,
Yeah.
oil, stocks, whatever. So passive is really saying that I'm lending other people money, and that money then is creating, income, and then you get a piece of it. I guess the biggest thing there is you have to make sure that you align yourself with quality, people that are managing those properties and that are actually not, like that are actually running a good business, that there is profit.
Correct. I mean, I can't stress enough. I tell people whether invest with me or anyone else, it's do your due diligence. You have to do your due diligence and hold whoever you're investing with accountable of what they promise, right? Of what they're saying they're going to do. It's checking up on them. And the moment they don't allow that or let you, that's the wrong person to invest with, in my opinion, right? So for us, I've learned that, and that's why we created our second company, AJX Capital, and we started our fund to bring in investors. I always tell them, don't invest with me till you ask a million questions, have all the questions that you have, any doubts, ask them all, because I'd rather you feel comfortable and sleep at night to know that we're using your money correctly. Check. I mean, I could say I've done 1,000 flips. You want a list of them, right? It's like asking me for to verify, because there's so many people out there that sadly might want to take advantage of you, might not. There's some great people out there as well, but it's just double checking. It's your money, right? So you have to do your part as well and make sure who you're investing with.
So I have a good example of this where it went south for me, where I had a cousin, my wife's cousin, who had invested in some real estate portfolios and was using their 401k to do that. So I set it all up. It was in Jersey City, and actually was a Trump. It was named Trump, which really it was that just means that he sold his name, but somebody else was actively managing it. It had nothing to do with the Trumps besides that they were managing. But in New York, New York and New Jersey, that has a cachet. Of course, people want to, maybe more before he got into politics, but it was certainly a good name that people would be like, yeah, that's a decent build, and everyone would always say that. Um, he did like 19 other properties. This was the 20th. I put in like $55,000 of my 401k. 2008 comes, they go bankrupt,
Mm.
and it went to zero, right? And the problem when you invest your retirement account and it goes to zero, there's no tax savings, right? Like at least if I use current money, not that it's good, but if I have a choice, I'd rather lose today's money because I then could take it as a tax deduction, right? Against income. So I would have at least gotten 30 to 40% of that back. And I didn't get any of it back because there's no it was using pre-tax dollars. So I certainly learned the hard way, which has actually probably made me a better broker and investor, is that I understand that there are pitfalls. So making sure that you align yourself with proper, and I did my due diligence. It just happened that the market tanked, and this company, when companies, each property has its own LLC. It's quite simple to say we can't make them note we're giving it back and we're going to go bankrupt, right? So it's not like their whole business goes bankrupt, that entity goes bankrupt.
Yep. Correct.
So a little crazy, but and then legacy wealth. So to me, legacy wealth is really so much passive income that you're not going to be able to spend it all, and you're able to basically, bring your family in and don't and make sure that you're providing for future generations. Is that basically the same to you?
It is, it's obviously me and my wife joke around, and we have a 17-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old son, and we joke around like saying, "This is our money, it's not your money," right? So I want them to understand how we're doing it, because I want them to do it for themselves. We've really gotten big into donating, and we built some houses. We just got back last week from Costa Rica, building 3 houses for people out there that were needy, and that has been something that legacy wealth is so important. But I also don't want my kids to just think, oh, we're gonna get my dad's money, right? We're gonna get mom's money. And so I really want to teach them how to do it. The importance of learning now as they're young to understand the importance of passive income, and having that, having your money grow, because you don't know what happens tomorrow. You can get sick, it could be an accident, hopefully not, but just in case it does, you're ready and you have your building for that. And I want them to understand it, because I want them to pass it on to my grandchildren when they have them, right? So it's for me, it's teaching. It's so important that yes, we're doing the legacy, but it's the legacy now has gone to the point where I almost tell my kids, you have to build your own wealth. My legacy, we want to be help to donate and do other things for the community as well.
So that's what I would say. So that's what's interesting about legacy wealth. Legacy wealth, you could argue, actually sets a bad precedent because people can get lazy and fat um, right? Because they're like, why do I have to work so hard? Because
Right.
I'm getting it from my parents or my grandparents or whatever.
Correct.
As opposed to, you kind of touched on it, but building what, so it's maybe, legacy wealth is really more that I want to have it for people, as opposed to building wealth where you can determine what you want to do with it. Um, you know, because also you might, like you said, you would have more money if you didn't go to Costa Rica and donate your time and money to building homes. So it's not always about how much money you're going to have at the end, but it's also how you're living life, and then also, trying to give back to people. So that's certainly, it's certainly something that needs to be done. So I have actually an interesting example right now. I have a 94-year-old client. He's a hoarder. The condo kicked him out of the unit. He's been living in a hotel for 3 years. He's out of money. So I basically got him through the social workers. We're basically like, and how I'm able to give back is, well, I'm actually currently prepaying for his hotel room because he ran out of money. I'm actually, I lent him money I tried to, there was supposed to be an auction on his property. And instead of doing that, I worked a deal out with the lender, or it's not a lender, but it's really his condo, to delay it for 60 days so that I can help him sell it. When you're dealing with it, he's now 94. Um, I had to take a mortgage out on the property because in case something happened to him. And so I bring him food, I'm bringing him clothing, things that like I'm never, and so, it's not just building, it's doing the right thing. And so it's
Correct.
interesting because in my case, adult protective services were calling me, quizzing me. Detectives were calling me. Why are you helping this guy? Why are you giving him 10,000? How do you know him? And I'm like, it's called humanity, right? And
Right.
so I didn't like that he was, and he's been stolen. They stole his stock. So all these things that I'm working on and helping him, and bringing in a team of people that can maybe do a forensic accounting of stuff. So we're getting there, and it's not easy, and it's really fighting City Hall. And so a lot of times, just as you went to Costa Rica to help people build a house, it's why do you do it? Because if you know who the person is, right? I don't know this guy, I've never met before, and so I'm able to help someone because I would be like, if I'm 94 years old and I don't have family that can help me, or my wife or my kids, you want someone to do that. And I'm
Right.
able to do it. And I feel really good about doing it. So it was funny because I had to prove to the detectives and
Yeah.
to adult protective services that I am not the bad guy. There are bad guys, and I keep telling them who they are. But that's what you got to do, right? So it's the same thing. So I would have more generational wealth if I wasn't spending it on this. But so in everything, it's moderation, right? So clearly, things that are very important in our life are like healthcare, having a house over, so it's certainly good to have money so that when, if your child got ill or your wife or you got ill, you're able to basically ensure that you're at least getting healthcare and all those other things. So it is
But
clearly important.
Daniel, one of the things this year that I told my kids that I'm really focused on. I'm a chubby guy. I love my burritos. I love my tacos and stuff. But I'm really changing my ways of strong body, strong mind, strong business. Because if you have the first two, your business will actually even do better, right? So it's just really pushing those things because it's so, and I say strong mind because strong mind is actually the giving back part too as well. I mean, there's so much to that, right? So it's really not, you can't just focus on business. It's gotta be really, uh, for me, between those three, I gotta like really make sure I'm putting time and effort into each three so that you can really, kind of push yourself in each of those, right? So it's just an amazing hearing what you're saying. That's giving back. I mean, that's a great story.
So I find something interesting in what you just said. So I'm less fat than I used to be. But I consider myself fat, right? That's my pronouns are fat, and it's because. But it's funny that you talk about passive income. I'm going to talk about passive weight loss because I'm a byproduct of Ozempic. I've been on Ozempic. I'm on currently Wegovy, and I'm about to switch to Manjaro because of insurance things. So, I lost like 12% of my body fat
Great.
to eat passively because I just have to give myself a shot. I give myself a shot in the leg once a week, and I can't eat as much. So, clearly exercise is better and all that other stuff. But like I'm passively losing weight. I'm a big proponent of those plans. So it's funny that you'll passively get money, but you won't passively lose weight. I would say that that's something that you should consider. It's I put less food in my mouth. That's why I lose weight because I can't eat as much. So
That's great.
it's instead of having your four tacos, you'll have three tacos or two tacos, and then you'll be good. My only caveat is that I do eat less food, like regular food, but Ozempic doesn't work for sweets. I still am a very good dessert eater. So but I have, it was funny because a client of mine actually was a cardiologist who put me on the drug. So it's
Mm.
really a meshing of all of my worlds. But I identify as a fat person because I feel like because I've been fatter longer in my life, and but I do think that getting in, all you're getting yourself in shape, your business in shape, your family, right? So it's really paying attention to details and not letting anything go, I guess is more like it.
Yep.
So
Agreed.
so so we're kind of like we hit the lead a little bit here because Jesse, I think you have an incredible story of that ties into real estate. Before we talked about that you had, a client that came to you and basically said, "Can you help me rent properties that I'm going to be buying or my clients are going to be buying?" You did that, and then you had a knock on the door, and I don't know if it was 2012, and what? So tell us this story because this is a story that, as you were telling me, this is really what makes Jesse ticks and it's a story of when life gives you lemons, how do you turn it into lemonade and don't dwell on the past and look forward. And so if you could just give us a little bit of tell us the story, I think it's something that's really important.
Sure, of course. So, over the last couple of years, I've decided to start sharing my personal story, and I think it's so important for people to know because we all go through adversities in life, some big, some small, and especially being in real estate, right? It's just about who you're trusting, and like especially real estate agents that are watching this. It's us as flippers, we were selling two houses back in 2008, right? That's when the market was starting to go down. A lender friend of that I knew, like an acquaintance, right, came up to us and said, "Hey, I got a buyer, that I'm representing to buy two of your properties that you have for sale." And he says, "I'm going to be doing property management for him, and I'm gonna, so I was wondering if we could buy it. Maybe could you help us rent it while we're in escrow?" And I'm a go-getter, so I was like, "Sure," and I'm appreciative. Wow, it's great. He's buying both properties off of us. To be honest, we weren't making any money on it because the values had already gone down from the crash a little bit. So we were just trying to get rid of them. And so sure enough, we closed on them. Like you said, knock on the door 4 years later. I'm opening the door and I'm literally in my pajamas and the cops are there. I see a badge and I'm thinking there was something in our park across the street. And they said Jesse Trujillo, and I was like, "Ooh," he said my name. All right. And sure enough, because you got to come with us. It was a sealed indictment. Took me in, found out that those two properties that we had sold, that this lender, along with some other like notary and people that he was working with, were buying in different counties in California, these properties, closing on them with stolen identities. And these stolen identities, they were renting the properties, keeping the rents, and letting the houses foreclose. So obviously not the smartest, the smartest people doing this, but sure enough, the reason I got involved in this was because when they went to go investigate with these tenants on who rented these house, they said Jesse Trujillo. So because I rented to them, even though it wasn't nothing was in my name, that's how they brought me in. I thought,
Which
okay,
is
well, no,
also strange that you're not on the lease.
nothing.
You're just the agent.
Correct. Correct. So I really did feel, even though it was a bad thing, like in the aspect of going that I was going through, I hired an attorney friend, someone I knew, someone I trusted from actually grade school that was doing very well for himself here in San Diego. And he got into the case. He found out what it was for. Once we knew, he's like, "Don't worry, Jesse, I'll prove your innocence." Here we are, a year later, like he's working on the case. He makes me go to his office, and it was Thanksgiving Day, 2013. And he's like, "I need you to come to my office." I said, "What's going on?" I said, "I just need you to come in here right away." Go in there. He's, very nice building downtown San Diego, and he's like, "Jesse, they want to bring in your cousins that were with you on the ownership of those two properties." And I said, "Oh no." He says, "But don't worry, I can still prove your innocence. I just need you to sign this plea right now." And so I went ahead and did it, thinking because he's saying that, number one, we wouldn't have to include my other cousins. Two, he said, "I'm still going to prove your innocence." Well, long story short, a couple months later, we're down there. We're thinking where we're going to go eat after. We're ready for to get this behind us. I'm in the courtroom. The judge is looking at the paperwork, looking at it, nodding his head. We're all looking at each other like, what's going on? And he goes, are you sure you want to do this? And I look at my attorney, and my attorney nods his head. And I said, yes, Your Honor. And he goes, well, you signed it. Bailiff, take him away for 5 years. And when he did that, it was just silence in the courtroom. All my family was there. We were like, what just happened? We ended up finding out that this attorney friend of mine was actually never turned in any evidence to show my innocence, never did anything. He tricked me into signing this plea. He was actually money laundering for the Mexican mafia in the background, and he got arrested a couple months after and went to jail for 5 years himself. So he never proved my innocence. I'm in jail. We're in shock. We're trying to fight this to prove my innocence, but by then I'm already in there. And sadly, it's again, I trusted my attorney friend, right? You're trying to trust a professional, and here he is. He didn't have my best interest in this at all. So, I went through there. We were trying to fight it. It was taking too long. I asked my wife, just send me the paperwork. Let me see what I could find. When I was in there, I ended up finding a paper that no one had ever shown me, and it was from the mortgage company showing how much they had lost. Well, no one had ever taken the time to even show this to me because obviously these properties were resold, and there was a clerical error of how much money that mortgage had lost, the mortgage company. They said it was over 700,000. After that, it was closer to $40,000. So it was almost like a smoking gun in my hand to show that number one, I should have never gone to prison for that. And then two, but no attorney wanted to jump on it because said by the time we fight this and do this, you're already going to be out. So it was an uphill battle of getting no's, no's, no's. So I ended up coming out in 2016. I only did 2 years, but I came out super angry. I was mad. I came out hungry, and I came out hungry, Daniel, and I came out hungry for a carne asada burrito, right? That was my first stop, got a carne asada burrito, and then I said, I'm going to work. I hugged my kids, I kissed my wife, and I went to work, right? I told myself I had found a um, a quote from Frank Sinatra, and he says, "The greatest revenge is massive success." And I remember hearing that like within like the month that I came out, and I said, "I'm going to use that." And I told myself that every day. I'm not going to try to go revenge on the people that got me in there, people did me wrong. I wanted to focus on me, and that's my greatest revenge. So I worked and I worked and I worked, and I got us from $0 in the bank to a $15 million net worth within 5 years from there. And I say that not to show off. I say that because I push myself. I doesn't matter what's in front of you. If you let it stop you, you're not going to do anything. And you got to really push yourself to keep going. Don't let those things stop you. You have to push. And again, I had two kids that were watching me grow, and I wanted to show them that even though we just went through one of the most horrible things that we can possibly go through as a family, that it wasn't going to stop me. I didn't care what was on my record. I didn't care. And we pushed and we got there. And I shared to you the thing earlier is um, I believe in not stopping, right? I persevere. You don't give up. And 2 years ago, I fought the case one more time because I said I still believe in my innocence. And we won the first part, which the first part was again, I found that paperwork again to show that it was a clerical error that the mortgage company had done and that nobody had even pushed it. And we won. We won in March of 2023. The judge ruled in my favor that I was wrongfully imprisoned, and we're still finding some things, but it was a first stop to show that we're on the right path with my attorney, not representing me correctly with all the things that had happened to me. Again, it's the story of pushing yourself. That when you're down on the bottom, you got to push yourself back up. Nobody else can do that for you. People can help, but you really got to mentally tell yourself, I'm not going to let this define me, and I'm going to push myself to that next level.
I mean, it's an incredible story. What's also interesting, Jesse, is when you talked about that the lawyer basically who was running, laundering Mexican drug cartel money. Um, like, do you go after him? Do you, because you were wrong, you were falsely imprisoned for 2 years for a horrible defense, and so that is valid. But when we talked about it, and you said you now have 15 million net worth, it's almost like you could win something, and maybe it's $1 million or whatever it is from their insurance company. But in the end of the day, takes a lot of sweat equity to fight that. And really, if you can the amount of effort that you're going to have to do to focus on that's going to be a lot, and it's going to take away from you really building your generational wealth. So maybe you just like, and we talked about it, like it might be good to clear your name because there was clearly mistakes were done, and that with proper representation, it doesn't seem like you would, that it was anything to do with you. So that might be good to clear your name more so than suing in for money.
Daniel I've learned a lot, right, from this. I mean, it's been so many years, but especially how the judicial system works, right? Is it perfect? No. Things happen. It really showed me that like it would be an uphill battle, but how much time and effort do you put into that, right? I am still working on some things, but you know what? I thank God we're able to push where we're at, and we're fine. We're doing great as a family. We've understood it. It's made me a stronger person. It's made me look at life very differently and trying to help people. So it's like we have an office here in San Diego, and 2 years ago I actually got together with it's called the Innocent Center here in San Diego, and all they work is it's a nonprofit attorneys trying to help free people that were wrongfully imprisoned, and nothing to do with me. They're not helping me. It's just they're helping other people with bigger cases. And just because I lived through it, I understood that that's happening out there. So we actually recently donated our office, the use of it for free, and they moved in to about 2 years ago, and now they're working out of there, and that's kind of our way of giving back, and hopefully it helps play it forward and just kind of help those people that don't have the resources, that haven't been able to get out and take their life back, right? So that's kind of just the mentality, and I don't let that define us. Like, we're gonna move forward and really go and help other people and building wealth at the same time. I love real estate. I mean, real estate is where it's at for me. And again, money isn't everything. We talked about this earlier. Like, being rich is being happy. That's money. Money doesn't matter. Like, money comes and goes. But I love real estate because it allows a lot of us to build wealth and do things with it, whether it's with family trips, donate back. It's really a machine for us that allows us to go do these things and live life in a happier way.
Before the knock on the door by the government, what was your net worth at that time?
I would say maybe 1 million, if that.
So you basically really took, went with lemons to lemonade, because it wasn't like you had 15, you lost it.
No.
You weren't there. I'm never going to say that jail is a good thing. It's
Yeah.
not good for people that didn't do it, or
Right.
that with bad lawyering, because it doesn't seem like it's a jailable offense to me. But like, you really like focused and redirected yourself, and instead of being, and I'm sure I would be angry. You're allowed to be angry, but you didn't let that cripple you, right? You used it as a kick in the butt to say, when I get out, what am I going to do with my life, and how are you going to be a better person? And you know what? Having to, because you're still a convicted felon. You're right. You're still a convicted felon, or is
Correct.
it? So, technically, right? Technically, until
Yeah.
you get a few things, you were wrongfully imprisoned, but they still have to take that away. You
Right.
know, people could be like, "Well, that's not who you are." It's what technically is, but who you are is what you do every single day, how you treat people, how you treat your family, how you treat your clients. And that's something that you can control, right? The other stuff, you're trying to work to get labels removed, basically,
Right.
but you're the inner strength of yourself. You're not letting it get down, and you're continuing to be the best Jesse that you can be, and to be a role model for your family, your community. Um, so I think that's an amazing thing. And so, clearly you do have, when I heard you were a motivational speaker, I'm like, yeah, whatever. So okay, so we grow money, but you actually have a story that it's inspirational,
Thank you.
because people can get a cancer, they can,
Right.
they can lose money, they could go bankrupt, there's so many things that can happen that are sometimes you cause it, sometimes you don't. But when a bad things happens, like what do you do with it? Because are you going to sulk in it and never get woe is me, or are you going to try your best to like pick yourself up by the bootstraps and try to make the best of it? Because again, like you said, it doesn't matter. An unhappy person with $15 million is unhappy, right? Maybe you're a little less unhappy with 15 million than you
No,
are with
no,
with
you
fifty
are
thousand
you are
dollars.
you are correct. I mean, honestly, I say that number because that's what it actually did when the dust settled. Honestly, I didn't even know. I remember looking back and I was like, "Where are we?" And I was like, "Man, okay, we've done great." But it didn't matter. The number didn't matter. I mean, the house, we could afford our house. We were living comfortably. I believe in spending money on memories. Like that for me is, I love using our money for that. Like that is, I'm not here to buy a nice car, nice, this. There's nothing wrong with it, but I love spending on memories because no one could take that away. When the money's gone, no one could take away our memories that we had. So
So,
that for me is one of
right.
the hugest
We're,
things.
I'm not, my wife and I are not car people. We are memory people because we're starting to take, and as I'm an empty nester, so as we, in the last couple of years, our trips have become slightly more epic, like,
Yeah,
Thailand,
great.
Peru, Machu Picchu.
Nice.
When we live in New York City, so when we go to see shows, we just saw Denzel Washington in Othello, and so we're not sitting up. We that's what we like to spend our money on, to do things with our family and go out to dinner and do. We're planning on actually. My wife likes tennis, and so we're like, Indian Wells just happened. They were like, we should do that next year, and
Right. Yeah.
so we'll, yeah, we'll go out. So we work, we work really, really hard, but it is amazing to be able to then, do historic memory trips and outings with your family, right? What better way would it be than to do things like that? And to that's why you work so hard, is to be able to do those things. Having the money in the bank means nothing.
No, I agree. And I always tell like people, my father recently passed and he was a jokester and I share this that I look back on his funeral, I was looking at everyone and my dad had made everyone in that room laugh at one point. And I think no matter what's going on, the importance of smiling, laughing, people forget about it, right? Like it's just know how important it is. Make yourself laugh, make yourself smile. And then why not have a conversation with someone else and your smile will make them smile, right? So it's nice to have that positiveness. That has nothing to do with money. That's just all of just being positiveness and sharing that with others. And it's a trickle effect. You might not know it, but it's going to the next person, going to the next person, going to the next person. So yeah, laughing.
Yeah.
I say laughing is living, right? So, and I tell the kids that all the time.
So while you were on the podcast today, there certainly, I'm giving street cred or credibility and props to Lily and your wife, because
Yes.
obviously she's been with you. I know that you're both very involved in your businesses, and so having a great partner, probably your best friend and spouse, who stood by you, right? And it
Right.
was, I'm assuming it's harder for you being in jail than for her, but it might be kind of close, right? Because
She
she
was in
also,
she was in jail too. Like if
eh,
mentally, right? I mean that
I,
they were in prison with me.
and yet you could cry at night if you needed to, and I would think that that's totally reasonable. She maybe cried at night when the kids were asleep, but her job was to take care of the children and to keep things moving in the business and all that other stuff. So your success is both of your successes, right? Like you're a team effort. So you let Lily know that I gave her props, and I know that it's both of you.
That's
It's an
amazing.
amazing it's an
Yep.
amazing story. I'm so thankful that you shared it. I just couldn't even imagine it, and to me it's just an injustice. But you know what? I mean, it is an injustice, and in life sometimes injustices happen, and it's just you can't get away from it. But you didn't let that prevent you from being the person you are today and the person that you can be for the next, hopefully decades to come.
Yep.
So I want to thank you very much for coming on the podcast. And you definitely have a story. And so the motivational speaker people should definitely reach out to you because it's a lot of people, you weren't given things. You had to earn it and things were taken away and you had to earn it again. And you have to earn it with people knowing potentially that that's your background. And not everyone's so open-minded. Um, and so, but thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. I wish you and your family much success going forward. You don't need me to say that because of your resilience and self-belief. It's certainly not bad to maybe hear it from me, but whether I said it or not, you don't care because you have it inside you. You're going to get it done. And thank you so much for coming on this week.
Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate it. And those words do matter to me. So thank you very much.
Well, you're absolutely a role model. I'm just a guy that's selling real estate. I try to be the best that I can be, but you're living proof that you really, really, have the passion and really the self-resilience. That's not everyone has that. So again,
Thank you.
congratulations on all of that. And for everyone, it's another episode of The Adventures of a Real Estate Broker with Daniel Berger. Until next time, thank you very much. Thanks for joining me on The Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. I hope you enjoyed our time together as much as I did. If you laughed, learned something, or just had a good time, do yourself a favor and subscribe to the podcast. A big shout out to our sponsor, RE/MAX Prestige Properties, for making this all possible. Remember to leave a review if you enjoyed the show. It helps more people find us. Until next time, keep it real, keep it fun, and keep exploring the adventures in your neighborhood. I'm Daniel Berger, your New York realtor, and I'll see you in the next episode.